What's up, Facebook Live, YouTube, Periscope? It's your girl, Dr. V. Listen, we're back for another amazing conversation, a conversation about race, racism, relationships, religion, and riots, baby. But now listen, you guys, I need you guys to share this. I need you to share it, share it, share it, share it, share it. I want to bring everyone in on the conversation. This is not scripted. It is not rehearsed. We have not planned it out. All we've said is we agree to come together, make ourselves vulnerable, and have a very real conversation. And we're going to allow you guys in. We're going to allow you guys to see and participate in this conversation. But I need you guys to participate by sharing. See, what I know is the more people who are willing to have real, transparent conversations, the more potential we have for real change. Real change doesn't come, necessarily through riots. We'll talk about that. Real change comes through these relationships and having real, open, honest dialogue and conversation. So while I'm sharing, you share, okay? So go ahead right now, go on and share. I'm going to share to some groups. I'm going to make sure that I do my part to make sure that we're having these conversations and we're not using our excuse as, well, I don't know what to say. Now, listen, we're going to get into that, but listen, I'm telling you, I've got somebody on the line with me today. Now, y'all know how I am about my people. Y'all know Dr. V gonna be Dr. V. Dr. V gonna keep it real. Like, I'm just going to be honest. This is my boy for real, for real. Like, listen, y'all know I don't fool with everybody. Y'all know I don't rock with everybody, but I rock with him for real. When I tell you that this man, I have a lot of respect for him. Not only do I have a lot of respect for him, listen, he's my coach. Now, I want y'all to know what that means, okay? Yeah, I really don't be listening to nobody, no way, right? I don't really listen to people. But there was something about him that struck me. Something about him that I knew that I had to have him in my life. He had to be a part of my life. He had to be a part of my journey. I knew it wasn't an accident. I knew that it was God ordained. I knew that God had a plan for our connection. And I had to absolutely take advantage of the opportunity to be coached by someone I consider to be one of the best coaches out there, bar none. And he white. What? Come on, somebody. Y'all know he gotta be bad, okay? So listen. You guys, I want to bring to the front my boy, my friend, my brother in Christ, none other than my coach, Steve Hopper. Steve, welcome to Dr. V's place.
Dr. V, oh my goodness. What an introduction. Now, seriously. Now, you have mastered the ability to edify somebody. I'm just telling you right now, you have mastered that ability. Thank you for saying all that stuff. But Dr. V, listen, at my events, there are certain people once in a blue moon that walk in the room, and the moment they walk in the room that they bring a presence, they bring that ability to influence others in a positive way. And the moment you walked into that room, you brought that presence with you. You're an absolute rock star. I love you to death. I only work with selected people as well. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt the moment I met you that you were a powerful individual that had the opportunity to really influence a lot of people in a positive way. And I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of that story. And that's why I engaged with you. And I know that you are crushing it. You are doing amazing things. And you have so many people looking to you right now for guidance and advice and direction. And that's why I know that this is going to be an extremely powerful conversation. Yeah. And I think it's absolutely necessary. When you reached out to me and said, Steve, hey, I want to do this, without a shadow of a doubt, without even hesitation, without even thinking about it, my response was absolutely, because, these conversations that are happening right now for a lot of people are tough. Mm-hmm. And, one of the penalties of leadership is to have tough conversations and to face tough situations and to guide and to lead and to help people have a better perspective or a different perspective, a higher perspective of what's really going on, what needs to be done, et cetera. And I know that having you and I on here together, we're gonna have some tough conversations, and we may challenge each other a little bit, but it has to happen. It needs to happen. And I believe that God is calling us to make these types of conversations happen. So I'm excited to be here. I'm honored and humbled that you would put me in front of your audience, that you think that much of me. So God bless you. I love you.
I love you too. And so it's so funny you said that, because listen, you guys, immediately I was like, oh my God, I would love to have this conversation with Steve, right? Listen, there's some people you have in your life that you know that when you have conversations with them, like they're going to be real. But Steve, you said something in our class the other night. You said, yeah, I'm going to have this conversation with Dr. V. And I said, yes, absolutely. Then I said, uh-oh. What did I just say? What was that moment for you? What happened for you in that moment? And I'm gonna tell you why I'm asking this, because I want the people to be real clear that this is real. This is real life, real relationship, and our real businesses, our real being is coming forth today. Like, this is not a game for us. It's not something that we're doing lightly. Okay, so talk about that moment when you said, "Whoa."
Well, here's the thing. I have always been a person that has always felt like everything that I needed to put out needed to be positive. I felt like there was enough negative in the world, and there was enough of that being put on social media. Before this situation happened, obviously, we go through social media on a daily basis, and sometimes we're scrolling through there and we're going, what? I can't believe that person said that. Like, I can't believe, oh my gosh, and you almost want to unfriend immediately because of something crazy somebody said, and I've always prided myself on being a person of positive influence. And there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and there's so many different perspectives and so many different feelings out there right now. And your initial response is, no matter what I say, it's gonna be wrong. That's an initial response that we have. I mean, that's just the real truth.
Absolutely.
It's the real truth.
Yes.
And so subconsciously, I think a lot of us, I even see friends of mine that are white on social media that are making posts, and they're making obviously supportive posts, but they're kind of prefacing it by saying, before they make the post, I know this is going to offend some people, but this is what I think, and so I know that a lot of people right now are nervous about saying anything, speaking up, because not that they feel in their heart what they're saying is wrong or what they believe is wrong, but the fact that they're worried about the ridicule that they're going to receive if they say something the wrong way, or if it comes out the wrong way, or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I made a post the other day, when all of this began, I was quiet for a few days, and the reason being is because I wanted to pray about it. I knew as a leader that I had a responsibility to step up and to stand for what was right. And I knew that I needed to address that. But before, I was angry. I was angry at the George Floyd situation. I was absolutely 100% angry, hurt, sad. I mean, I went through all the emotions that you go through over this. Right. It was anger, and then it was sadness, and then it was, what can I do? And then it was, all of these different emotions. And before I spoke out, I wanted to pray about it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I prayed for before I spoke was, God, give me the perspective that I need to have in this situation. Open my eyes, open my ears, give me wisdom, give me understanding, give me compassion, give me everything that you need me to have to be able to lead in a positive way. And so, I sat back for a few days, and I really, really just, I mean, my wife will tell you, I was literally almost physically sick. Mm-hmm. I was sitting on the back porch, just staring off into space. And she was sitting there and she's like, man, you're really going through it right now, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah, I am, so anyways, I think that when you were like, hey, let's go live, let's bang this out, let's have this conversation. I'm like, well, what do you want to talk about? Well, I didn't say that, And at
Right.
first I was like, okay, all right. And then I was like, whoa, wait a second. What's going to happen here? You know what I mean? But
Yes.
here's the deal. I love you.
Mhm.
I know you. I trust you. Um, and the reality is that we have to have these conversations. We
We
have
do.
to.
We do. And I'm glad you said that because I did the same thing. And people will tell you when I said anything about it, it was like, listen, yes, this is going on. And yes, this is horrible. And I just don't want us to stay here. I just don't want us to stay here. And so I didn't say a lot. I said, I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna keep it moving. And God said, but you can't. You can't. Like I didn't want to engage it. And I didn't want to
Yeah.
engage it because I didn't want to feel the stuff. I didn't want to feel the stuff that I knew I would feel. I didn't want to go back and I didn't want to have to remember and recount things that I've gone through that hurt me and in many instances traumatized me. But I found my way to be able to work through and to overcome and to be real with people about that stuff, like what that stuff
Yeah.
is. So, this is what I want to say as we get ready to start this conversation. And I want y'all to hear my heart. Like, if you followed me for any period of time, I don't be with the mess. I don't be with it. Okay. And so Steve has made himself vulnerable. I'm making myself vulnerable. And I'm going to ask that you respect our right to say what we believe, what we feel without attacking us. Now, I'm saying all that, but listen, y'all, let me tell you what happened for me that really made me want to have this conversation with Steve. I was on somebody's live and they were saying stuff and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it wasn't that everything they were saying was wrong, right? It was that it minimized the situation and what was going on. And something in me rose up and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're reducing this to this. And so we're gonna have a real conversation. Steve and I are big boy, big girl. We can agree to disagree and stuff. But I'm gonna share with you guys. And Steve, you don't know this about me. Let me say, Steve and I haven't known each other long, right? But I rock with him. Like it's not like we've known each other a long time. We met in March?
Mm-hmm.
At your event, right? So this
Yeah,
is
but listen, we done been through COVID-19. We've been through a lot of stuff together, haven't we?
we've been through
Yeah,
stuff,
so
right?
we're on the fast track.
We are on the fast track. But there are things he doesn't know about me, like there are things I don't know about him, right? So when I was growing up, I grew up in a predominantly white town, and I was the quote unquote smart Black. I was in the smart classes. I was in the classes with all the white kids. I really believed that if I just worked hard and I got my good grades and I was a good person, then like all of the opportunities afforded anybody else would be afforded to me. And like that race wasn't an issue. Like I really did not feel like race was an issue. Like I just didn't think it was an issue. And I remember the conversation of race. We talk about race and religion. I was in Sunday school. I went to a white church. It was a white church. It was a lily white church, right? A big church. It was the big church in town, First Baptist Church on Main Street in Russellville, Kentucky. And they had a mission that was in the hood, right? And so what they did is the van would go around and it would pick people up and bring them to the mission. And I remember going to the mission. My family didn't go to church like that. And so that was where I had an opportunity to be introduced to organized religion. And I remember going, and I remember we were talking in Sunday school, and I had an amazing Sunday school teacher. And so the issue of race came up, okay? And I asked the question because I've always been a question asker, right? Because all of the people in the Sunday school book were white. I said, where did Black people come from? This is the honest to God answer that I got. My Sunday school teacher said to me, and I don't think she was racist or malicious or had any ill intent or ill will, none of that. What she said to me was, Black people came from Noah's son who saw him naked. And because he saw him naked and did not cover him, God cursed him and made him Black. That was my introduction to her understanding of where Black people came from. Now, I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. So for a long time, I thought that was the truth, right? Because you think what you hear in church, like it's got to be true. But that was my introduction to where do Black people come from, right? And so, Steve, as we have been going through all of this, I had to learn some things um, about my Blackness that would allow me to be proud of it, not to lord it over anybody or, try to make anybody else feel less than, but to really understand like what it means to be Black, the legacy that I come from, the royalty that I come from. And for me, the most revolutionary thing I ever learned was that all humanity derived from a Black woman in Africa, Lucy. When Newsweek put that on the cover, like it revolutionized my world. Because while I knew that there was one race, this human race, I also knew that race was being used as a tool to divide. Religion was being used as a tool to oppress and to enslave. And I knew I couldn't live that. So, Steve, I want you to talk to me for a minute about when you first came to understand what it meant to be white.
Well, first of all, since we're here today and we're having this tough conversation, one of the first things that I want to challenge you on is something that you just said. You said I was the smart Black kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In quotes.
So, right. In quotes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the reality of it is that we all have these limiting beliefs that have been inserted in us from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning of life, whether you're white or whether you're Black.
Mm-hmm.
You have your walk, you have life experiences that insert these limiting beliefs. So the fact that you would just quote unquote call yourself the smart Black girl would insinuate that you were walking with this complex that that all Black people weren't smart. And the reality of it is that they are. And so, right. So when we talk about perspective, I think that one of the things that we've got to do here, white or Black, it doesn't matter. We all have to challenge our own way of thinking. We all have to challenge our own experiences. You asked me, when was it that I realized I was white? Well, obviously from day one, I realized that I was white. Okay. But it wasn't a situation, obviously my entire life I looked in the mirror and there was a white person in front of me, but I didn't think of it that way. I didn't look in the mirror and go, oh yeah, I'm white,
Right.
Right. So as I got older, my experience was going to prison. For those people that don't know me, at 17 years old, I got into a fight my senior year in high school. I ended up injuring another teenager, and I got sent to prison for 10 years at 17 years old. And my first real experience with racism was in prison. It was in prison. I mean, I walked into a whole new world that I didn't have a whole lot of understanding about.
Right.
Now I grew up, like everybody else, you go through school and you have history books and, you learn about Martin Luther King and you learn about, the struggle that Black people went through. You learn about slavery and you learn all of these things as you're growing up. So I knew about racism, but I didn't get to see it like hardcore firsthand in your face until I got into prison. Okay. And, I shared this story with you the other night, and the rest of our group. I got jumped in prison and got almost beat to death,
Right.
by a group of Black guys. And I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't disrespected anybody. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I got beat almost to death because I was white.
Right.
And the people that came to my rescue and saved my life were black dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got jumped by black dudes and beat almost to death because I was white, and the black dudes came and saved me.
Right.
And so, I was thinking about that even after I told that story the other night on our Zoom. I was thinking about it. And this light bulb kind of just went off real, real big for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was that we have a responsibility. Our black community is crying out. They've been crying out to us for years, and we haven't been listening. We have not been listening at the capacity that we should be listening to. And we have not been making the moves and taking the approach and the stance that we need to make this situation better.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just like them black dudes came to rescue me,
Right.
I believe that our white community, it's time for us to step up in a big way and come to the rescue of our brothers and sisters.
Right.
And again, this boils down to perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It boils down to perspective,
So
Dr. V.
you said something really key, because, well, I'm going to do it. First of all, let me say this.
There's so many places we can go with this conversation.
I know,
I know
right?
we're going to beat up,
I know.
but go ahead.
Let me say this first of all. I'm so sorry that you went through that. I'm so sorry that somebody looked at the color of your skin. And I just want you to listen. I'm so sorry that somebody looked at the color of your skin and used it as a reason to almost take your life. I hate that would ever happen to you, because I know who you are and I know your heart. Like, never in a million years would I want that to ever happen to anyone, but I especially am grateful to those black guys that came and rescued you, because had they not rescued you, I would have never met you, and I would have never gotten to know Steve Hopper, and you would have never had the opportunity to pour into my life, and we would have never had the opportunity to have this interaction. And so I hate that someone would look at you and discount and devalue your life because of the color of your skin. I hate that. So first of all, I want to apologize on behalf of those black guys that saw you but didn't see you. They saw you, but they saw you as the oppressor. And so they put all of the pressure on you to take all of the heat for everything that has ever been done to black people ever in life. I apologize for that. And that's important to me. And I'm going to tell you why it's important to me. I believe that in order for true healing to occur, someone has to stand in the gap. When I minister and people have issues with their moms, right? Their moms weren't there the way they needed them to be, and they've been traumatized. So I stand in the gap because I have the capacity to do that. Like, I can take it. Like, I can handle it, right? And so it's important for me to do that, because somebody needs to do that. Somebody needs to do it. So that's the first thing.
Can I
go ahead?
No, go ahead. No, I just want to interject for a second. I appreciate you apologizing, but it's not necessary. And I'm going to tell you why it's not necessary. Because I don't look at you as a black woman or any other black person and associate them in any way, shape, or form with the 6 dudes that jumped me in prison. So there's no apology necessary.
Well, I'm just gonna talk for just a minute. I appreciate that, but I associate me with those 6 dudes that jumped you in prison, because I come from a culture that is a collectivist culture. And in my culture, the actions of individuals affect the collective. And so therefore, as a part of the collective, I assume also responsibility for the missteps of the collective. You understand?
I'm with you.
That is a part of my student David was talking about this. When you talk about culture and you talk about how different cultures view things in the world and perspective, right? Our perspectives. The white or European American or Caucasian culture tends to be more individualistic in the way they view the world. Like the actions of an individual are the actions of an individual. In the African American culture, it tends to be more about community, the collective, right?
Right,
And
right.
Latino culture, it tends to be more family oriented. It's about the family, right?
Right.
In Asian culture, it tends to be more about face and saving face. Face is very important. So different cultures have different things that they value and the way they see the world. And that really is what we're talking about. We're talking about perspective.
Right.
As we're talking about perspective, when I say the smart Black, not because that's how I was I was treated like the smart Black, like there can only be one, right? And
Right.
it is a complex, and it does build
Right.
up in people. And you can see adult people who have been that Black person, and they will fight you because there's not room for two of us. There can't be two Black people doing this. There can't be more than one, right? Because
Right.
not only have you bought the lie, but you've bought the lie, and you've bought that this is an individualistic culture, and it's just about the individual and what the individual can do, and any individual can do the exact same thing, right?
Right.
And that's a part of the conversation, right?
Right. Right.
So when I look at the things I've encountered, see, this has been the blessing for me. The blessing for me, I think, was when I was in college. I had a really bad encounter. White guy was like, "Get out of the way, niggas." But first of all, I just was coming into the realization that my Blackness was a problem. Like towards the end of my high school years, right? It was when I began to understand, well, wait a minute. Well, why are they treating me like that? Why are they acting like I'm different? Why is this happening, right? And it was because of my Blackness. But check this out. They played Roots. Now listen, I'm on a predominantly white campus, the University of Kentucky. People are looking at me, oh, she's a scholarship kid. You know, these Black kids are just here because they're Black. No, I was there because I killed it on the ACT, baby. I killed it so bad, they had to send somebody to come and find me, right? And so, you know, I went there with the idea that, listen, I'm getting ready to change the world. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I'm getting ready to go up here. And up until then, race was not a big issue for me. It was not. So I get there, I have that encounter, and then they show Roots. My poor white roommate, she had hell to pay because they showed Roots. And I was so mad at white people. I can't stand white people. I hate white people. White people make me sick, right? These are the same girls.
Listen, hey, since we're keeping it real, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
When situations like that happen, y'all need to know that every white person in the room gets nervous as heck. All right, since we keeping it real, like, yes. Man, we get scared, we get nervous. We're like, oh Lord, have mercy. What's yeah. And
that was my roommate. So she's tiptoeing around the room. I was like, I hate white people. And it's so funny looking back on it now, but it wasn't funny then. It wasn't funny for me. It wasn't funny for her. Like, we had to work through this whole thing, and she absolutely was an amazing roommate. Like, she was an amazing person. And so, but she had to catch some of that. She caught some of that, right? Yeah. She caught some of the brunt of Roots, right? I know she was like, I hope they never play this movie again. You know? But I had to go through it because, listen, as I began to teach interracial communication and intercultural communication, I began to understand that there are stages, like there are stages of grief, there are stages of racial identity. And then when you begin to understand the stages of racial identity, one of them is anger. Like, you get really angry because all of a sudden you realize that your race is impacting your life, right? And so, to fast forward now, here I am, right? My freshman year, I'm pissed. They showed Roots. The white boy done called me a nigger. You know, a nigger. ER. Had to have the ER. Nigger. Get out of my way, nigger. I'm not even a fighter, Steve. Well, I wasn't a fighter, right? You know, so, you know, right. I'm like, get out of the car. like I said, okay, we want to play stereotypes. I'm going to play the stereotypical angry black woman. Get out of the car. I bet you won't get out. I practiced rolling my neck. I'm that black girl. I had to learn rhythm. I'm that black girl that I had to practice being hood. Like I had to practice, and I still haven't mastered it, right? And so fast forward, I end up dating a white guy. But I dated white guys in the past, like, but I end up dating a white guy. And now the black people looking at me like, you a sellout, like you just, how you going to be dating this white boy? Cause you conscious. How you going to be dating this white boy? And I'm like,
right.
That white boy, make sure that I have plenty to eat. He takes care of me. We have a good time. Like we study together. He's good people. I'm not discounting him because he's white. I'm not going to do it. Right. But we had challenges with his family, right? Because his family was like, nah, I ain't with that. I'm not with it. And to be honest with you, Steve, I get it. Having children of your own, you begin to get some stuff that you don't get then, right? Because you know the world we live in, and you know that they're going to encounter things that you would rather protect them from. Right. But I'm seeing something happen with our young people. And there is this whole thing that's going on. Let me ask you, have your kids asked you any questions? Have you guys had any conversations about what's going on? How old are your children, first of all?
So I have a 15-year-old girl that's about to be 16. I've got a 14-year-old girl. I've got an 11-year-old girl. Ooh. And then our son Cody is 9.
You got a lot of girls.
Obviously they all have social media, and, we fought that tooth and nail for years, and then eventually, you get to a point where you're like, listen, they gotta be exposed. They're going to be exposed to it at some point. We might as well expose them to it when we have some opportunity, right?
Right.
To keep an eye on all of it. So they're seeing everything. They've seen the George Floyd video, and yes, we've talked about it. And the beautiful thing to me, and it's something that lets me know that, Lauren and I have done a really good job, of raising our kids to the best of our ability. They were all upset, and they were all hurt, and they were all questioning, why this exists, why it happens. And, we had some conversations, and, on the flip side too, they're questioning, Dad, why are people stealing? What does that have to do with this? How does that help this? Mm-hmm. So they're asking those questions too, mm-hmm. And so it's given us an opportunity to have some real conversations with our kids that aren't the normal conversations. Right. They're not the conversations you walk around and have on a weekly, daily, monthly basis.
Right.
When situations like this happen, and I thank God that He has given me a higher perspective mm-hmm. on all of this so that I can share that higher perspective with my kids. Mm-hmm. I think one of the keys for us as well is to pay very close attention to who we're listening to right now in this time. Mm-hmm. Are we listening to the people that are feeding the division? Or are we listening to the people that are the true leaders like Tony Dungy? True leaders like Tony Dungy who step up and say, hey, listen, one, we as believers, we as Christians need to lead this. We need to be the leaders of this. Mm-hmm. What a great opportunity to glorify God for us as Christians, black, white, it doesn't matter, for us as Christians to pull together and lock arms and make a way, people like that are going to speak life into us mm-hmm. and not speak death into us. People that are going to speak unity into us and not division into us. But here lies that problem, Dr. V, mm-hmm. is that so many people have been given the perspectives that they've been given throughout their experiences, throughout their upbringing, throughout the view that they've had at this of this world, and it's time. I truly, truly believe that the only way that listen, you know as well as I do going into this, everybody's not going to change their mind.
Absolutely.
Everybody's not going to change their mind about how they feel. There are going to be white people in this country that are still going to find a reason to dislike black people. And there are going to be black people that are going to still find every reason they can to dislike white people in general.
Absolutely.
And what we've got to stop doing is focusing all of our attention on those individuals and start looking to all of the people that are in influential positions that are saying, hey guys, listen, here's the deal. Enough is enough. We've been brushing all of this under the rug for all of these years, and we're at a point where it ain't being brushed under the rug anymore.
Right.
This ain't going to be brushed under the rug anymore.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when we talk about a higher perspective, you know, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, you know, and let's, since we're having these tough conversations, let's do this. Okay. You know, I see a lot of white people on social media that are, and I'm calling out my white people because I feel like that, you know, as a leader, I've got to do my part, like you said, you know, on my side of things to get these people to see a different perspective. And then our black leaders have to get the black community as well to look at a perspective that is going to be in line with not only ending all of this, you know, social injustice, but also the healing process as well. Okay. So, you know, I see white people getting on and they, and excuse me, immediately the thing is George Floyd was a criminal. George Floyd had a record. George Floyd, why are we making this about George Floyd? And the reality, and see, here's the thing. This is where the higher perspective comes in. It's not just about George Floyd. George Floyd was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right. Right.
He was the enough is enough, whether he was a criminal, whether he had a record. And I know people are going to listen to this and they're going to go, what do you mean whether he was a criminal? The reality is that, yes, George Floyd made a lot of mistakes in his life. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, okay? Sure. But he didn't deserve to die in the middle of that street. This is the big perspective. It's not just about George Floyd, y'all.
Right. And this is the other thing, because it's not just white people who do that. Candace Owens is a classic example of that. Like, she's a classic example of that because that was her whole argument. And then she said, and I know for 5 years he hadn't gotten in any trouble, but come on, y'all, really? People just change like that? Well, so we have to, it's not just white people, there are black people saying the same thing, right? It is a mindset that says that this only happens to people who are criminals. This only happens to people who do bad things, right? That's whole attribution error, right? That people make. So I get it, right? And so, you know, I was thinking about this because I remember you saying, and Dr. V, if I see you and you're going far left in the anger zone, then, you know, I'm going to have to call you on it. And I get it. Great. But listen, this is what I'm going to say. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say, Steve. I'm going to say it, right?
Say it, girl.
I am. So for me, as a people, Black people have been very, very forgiving, almost to a fault, because the same religion, the same Bible has been used to abuse and oppress us, right? The principles of God are the principles of God, but the same God that is a God of love is also a God of war, right? And there are times when there must be war. War sometimes is necessary for us to get to the place of love. At the end of the day, the goal is to be in a place where we really can operate in true love, in higher understanding. But even scripturally, there were times when there had to be war. War sometimes is necessary. Conflict sometimes is necessary. Disagreement sometimes is necessary. It is a necessary part of the process. We can't just say, okay, we're just going to heal. No, it doesn't work like that. We've been doing that based on promises that people have made. And
Right.
so we've got to get to the point where it's not just words, because you said it. Love is an action word. See, you show me you love me as a white person when you're willing to be inconvenienced for justice to come to someone who doesn't look like you. See,
Right.
that's love for me, right? And,
Mhm.
and while we have different love languages, right? Everybody wants to see love show up. And so I can say I love you all day and
Right.
be, you know what I'm saying? I can say I love you. I'm beating you because I love you. I don't know about you, but I got whoopings because I was loved, right? I love you. That's why I'm whooping you.
Me
Don't
too. Listen, me too.
love you.
Let me tell you why I just beat your butt, son, because I love you. All right. So I'm with you.
Exactly.
But listen, here's the deal. Love is an action. I think that that's where, when we talk about love, love is not just something you say or something you feel. Love is an action. And, here's perfect. I'm going to use my wife here as a couple of examples, like I did the other night on our Zoom. Um, my wife gets mad at me because I do something wrong, right? Something that offends her, upsets her, whatever. Okay. And I'll say, I'm sorry, I love you. And then her response to me is, well, love is an action. So basically what she's telling me is, don't just tell me you love me. You can tell me you love me, but show me that you love me too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we've got to show each other. Now, when you talk about war, when you mention war, and I want to address that here real quick. You're right. We need to be at war. We need to be at war with hatred and at war with injustice. So we don't need to be at war between white and black. Let's get that straight right now.
No.
When we say war, we need to be at war with injustice, and we need to be at war with hate, and we need to do that collectively together. Now, the reason that you hear me, I keep talking about love, is because the only thing that will beat hate is love. So love needs to be the biggest weapon that we use in this war against hate.
I agree.
So so Dr. V, where does that start? Because I'm going to say this, okay? I'm going to say this. I'm going to bring up my wife once again, okay? I believe, and this is me coming from this place that I'm at, when it comes to perspective, as I look at all of this, my wife gets angry at me. She gets really angry at me sometimes, right? I think anybody that's married understands exactly what I'm saying right now.
Absolutely.
And what happens is that in most cases, it's not just what I did that makes her angry. What makes her even more angry is the fact that she feels I'm not listening to her when she is sharing with me what has been hurting her or what hurt her. So when we look at the anger that's out there right now, that anger is a result of not being listened to, not being heard, not feeling like you've been heard. And again, I'm speaking to my white people. When you see this anger that's taking place right now in the black community, you can say, oh, here we go again, or you can take a higher perspective and say, listen, they are hurt because they have not been listened to. They have not been heard.
Yes.
And so, yes. So again, when we talk about war, yes, we are at war.
Yeah.
But we've got to take a higher perspective, a perspective of understanding when it comes to that war. Black and white have to take a higher perspective and understand that we are at war with hatred. And
Yes,
we have to respond to hatred with love. Love, again, is an action, and we need to start taking some actions that are in line with love.
Right. So this is the thing, Steve, and this is the thing. I agree with you on that. I'm love all day long. I am love. I love, 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 love. Like that's who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not what I say, it's what I do. And I actively do it. I consciously, actively walk in love, right?
Yes.
You use the example of your wife. And one of the reasons that I wanted us to have a conversation is I want to say unequivocally, okay, if we're going to walk in love, truly walk in love, that means that when you bare your soul to me, I'm not going to act like you didn't just bare your soul to me. I'm
Absolutely.
not going to not respond to that. I'm not going to not say anything. And that's why I responded the way I did. And I apologize for those who did that to you, because your pain is real. And I know I've never been beaten almost to death. I can't relate to that, right? But I know what it feels like for someone to do stuff to me that tries to destroy me at my core, take my livelihood, take my life, my living away from me because of the color of my skin. So while I can't relate to being almost beat to death, I can relate to that emotion. And one of the things that I taught my students, because I've been doing this work a long time with a lot of white people, right?
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
let me interject here for a second, because I
Okay.
want to say this, because I wanted to say it earlier and we started talking about something else. You know, I'm not hurt. I'm not hurt by that situation. I don't walk around carrying any kind of animosity or anything. So first, let me tell you that I'm thankful for that situation. And you know why? Because one of the reasons that I am able to have the perspective that I have when it comes to people being treated a certain way because of the color of their skin is because I got to experience that. And let me tell you something. I don't I I I understand, because I was on the, do I understand what it's like to feel like that my entire life? No, but for that one moment, for that brief, quick moment, which
Right.
happened like that, I got to understand what it felt like to be on the other side of racism. And it's ugly and
Yes.
it is hurtful. And
Yes.
you do sit there and go, why? Why did they just treat me that way? You know what I mean? I didn't do anything to them. I didn't, so I understand what it feels like to be on the other side of that.
Yes.
And the problem that we have is that, again, everybody has a perspective that they have been given throughout their life,
Mm-hmm.
and they've never, most people have never had to be on the other side. They haven't had to experience what it felt like. I never got turned down for a job because of the color of my skin. Now, granted, because I was an ex-convict, there were a lot of doors that closed. So I get it. I got to
Right.
experience that too. It
Right.
wasn't because I was white, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was because I was an ex-convict, right?
Right.
With no college education. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
go out and make my own way.
Right. Right.
So
And I
I know
think
what it feels like to have doors closed. But here's the thing. Like, again, I'm trying to get to a place here where I am hoping, and this is my voice, my part,
mm-hmm.
okay? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people are sitting back right now and they're going, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. V, I think that one of the mistakes that we make, one of the mistakes that we can make, is to say, because you're not screaming off of the rooftops right now in anger over this, you
Mm-hmm.
don't support. And that's a big mistake, because some
No.
people, it's just not in them. It's not their personality to get on the rooftops and scream out. They're going to take other actions, and hopefully people do take other actions. And then there are going to be people, Dr. V, that are going to sit back, and those are the followers that sit back and wait for the leaders to make a difference, and then they follow the leaders. Okay. That's just all there is to it.
Right.
Right.
And
We're not going to change that. But if you are a leader and if you do have a voice, this is my challenge. This is where I feel like I'm going to integrate what God's called me to do into helping towards a solution. Okay.
right.
And that
Absolutely.
is, we have to challenge each other
We do.
to think differently, to think from a different perspective, a higher perspective.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, and we ain't there yet,
Mm-hmm.
at some point, we've got to stop pointing the finger at everybody, and we've got to start finding the solutions.
I agree, Steve. I agree 100% with what you said, but I'm also going to say this. You are operating from a place of white privilege. I'm going to say it because you can say all of that. It's not going to cost you your life, right? And I'm not saying don't love. I love hard, right? I'm not saying don't forgive. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, as a people, we have tended to back up too quickly before enough pressure was applied to create lasting change. And what I am also saying is that if you are white, and if you are Black, and if you are Latino, and if you are Asian, and no matter what you are, if you're heterosexual or you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and someone opens their heart to you and you say nothing, then it's as though you just spit on that person and their experience. And I know you don't mean to. I don't think most people mean to. I don't think it is an intentional thing. I don't think that all white people are bad. I don't think that anybody is bad. I don't. And I want us to get to that place that you're talking about. I really do. And I believe that if enough of us come together, we can do it. But I will also say this. When you are sitting in the place of whiteness, which has privilege associated with it, it is much easier to say, oh, just love, just love, just love. And I agree, love is going to change things. It is the love that's going to change things. But it is also necessary for us to push people. Steve, you're a coach. Let me tell you something I know about you. You don't let people sit on their personality. You don't do that, Steve. Somebody can be the most introverted introvert, and what are you going to tell them?
They need to get up.
They need to get up. Right?
Right.
I sat in class the other night, and you didn't have that same level of expectation when it came to I don't want everybody to shout. Everybody's got a different assignment, but everyone has an obligation, right, to honor each other's humanity. Just if we can just learn to do that, if we can learn how to do that, whether we agree with people or not, like, it doesn't matter. We just gotta honor each other and let people know, I hear you.
All right. So I hear you too. And I'm hearing you. But we're having a deep conversation here.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Right. Okay. So let's talk about it like this. What we're doing sometimes is we're judging people because they're not reacting in a certain way to what's going on right now. Now, I want to challenge you on this. Hold on a second, okay? Because let's face it, we had on our Zoom the other night, we had a couple of white people in our group that, as we had this deep conversation, they didn't say anything, and they got called out on it. And of course, I spoke up and said, "Hey, listen, some people are still." Figuring this out, you know what I mean? So let's cut them a little bit of slack right now. So the problem is that if we start, if we continue, Dr. V,
I'm listening,
to take a judgment approach towards what people are not saying, what they're saying, whatever, what we are doing is we're moving away from getting to a solution and coming together. And what we're doing is we're pushing each other. We're fighting this same judgment with judgment. But okay, so I know, but hold on. Hear me out on this, because I'm going to challenge you. When I talk about love, make no mistake. I'm not talking about love from a place of white privilege. I'm talking about love as a Christian. I'm talking about love from a place as a Christian who is spending my life trying to grow and trying to get better and trying to make a difference and trying to make a positive impact. And now here's another thing. You have a lot of, when we talk about white privilege, I get it, because I'm coming from a different perspective. So I know exactly what you mean. But we need to talk about that a little bit further, because what happens is when you start throwing rocks at white privilege, what happens is you start to have a lot of white people that don't understand what you're saying. So they take offense, and all of a sudden they stop listening to you. And I'm keeping it real now. All right.
I hear you. We had this conversation yesterday, and we talked about
right,
white privilege. So
right, and white privilege is white. So let's clarify on this, because I want you to
absolutely,
clarify this for the white people that
absolutely,
are listening. White
absolutely.
privilege, white privilege from my perspective is this, okay, is that because of the racism, the general racism in this country, because of the socialistic system, that the socialistic racism that takes place in this society, we as white people, because we're white, don't have to deal with a lot of the same stuff. We have more doors that are open to us. In other words, things like when we go in for a job, etc. But here's the thing: what happens
Okay,
is that
Paul.
you
Let me define.
go
Paul,
ahead.
let me
All
define
right,
white
come
privilege.
on.
For me, white privilege is not even all that. For me, white privilege is the privilege of not even have to think about your whiteness.
Exactly.
It's not having to
Yeah,
think
I
about
was getting there. I was getting there.
it.
Go
Okay.
ahead. I'm
So
with you.
it's not having to think about it. And so when I talk about this, because I want you to, because what I think that what's happening is you're perceiving it as judgment when I'm saying this is how I need you to hear me, right?
Right.
We
Right.
have problems because we don't make clear expectations of what it is that we desire from each other. It happens in relationships, it happens in friendships, it happens in business. And if we don't have clearly articulated, if you don't know what to do, you do nothing. When there's no clear path, we do nothing, right?
Right.
And you taught me this. Now I'm talking about this is
Yeah.
what you taught me,
Oh
right?
yeah.
When we have
Absolutely.
no clear action, right? Then
Right.
we do nothing. So for me, white privilege is having the privilege of being able to just do nothing, not
And not
do
worry about it.
anything.
Life
Not,
goes on. Yeah, I got you. I'm with you. And listen,
so that's not judgment. I'm
the
not
reason
judging.
listen, the reason
Mhm.
I'm calling you out on that is because I need you to help me explain
Right,
to the white community
right,
what you mean when you say white privilege, because I know for a fact that that much of the white community, when they hear that, they immediately take offense to that. And
right.
so again, what we've got to work on,
Mhm.
and this is why we have to have these tough conversations, is because we have to hear, the white community has to hear what the black community is saying. And the black community as well needs to look at the white community and help us understand things that we don't understand because of the white privilege that we've had.
Right. And I get that, Steve. And I think that we are saying very similar things. I think we come from the same place in our hearts. Like, I think we both believe that love is the answer. I just think that what that looks like may be different for us, right? There's some things about it that may be different. And it's okay. It's okay that it's different. And for all of the white people out there, I want y'all to know I'm not, listen, there's a difference between, in the personality test, it talks about being judging, right? But it's not judging the way we think of judging. The way we think of judging is you're saying it's good or bad. It's an evaluation judgment. I'm not talking about evaluation. I'm talking about action. That's it. So if you poured your heart out to me, like when you made that post, I couldn't read that post you made and not say anything, even though I was torn about what I would say and how I would say it. I
Right.
couldn't say nothing. If I said
Right.
nothing, then it would be like you poured your heart out for no reason. If you
Right.
put that post out there and there were crickets, you would be like, oh, I need to take this down. I messed up. I shouldn't have said this, right? And I get it. So David and I were having the conversation, and as people of color, we find ourselves always being the ones explaining to other people, like,
Right.
what is the problem? What do Black people think? How it's affecting us? But if I share that with you and you just look at me, I promise you I won't share anything else. And that's the law of reciprocity.
Sure.
In communication, we talk about the law of reciprocity. And the same thing that, you would want, you give. And so I hear you. And so I want you to know I'm not saying people are bad because they don't say anything. I'm not saying people are horrible people because they're not protesting. I'm not saying people are bad people because they're not doing it the way I think they should do it. But
Right.
I'm saying, say something. If all you do is say to me, I hear you. You don't have to agree with me. You don't even have to like me. I cannot like you
Right.
and tell you, listen, I hear you. You know, and I hear you, Stephen. I hear your heart, and I agree. We have to work to get to the place where we're able to operate in love. And just so you know, like, I reached out to people. I reached out to people. I let people know I love them,
I did
right?
too. I
Because
did too. Yeah,
I
I reached out to you. I texted you and told you I loved you. Remember?
yeah, but
Yeah.
I didn't want people to think based on the interaction that I somehow felt like they were a bad person. You know, like it was
Right.
very important to me to do that because I live love, right? And so this is important, and I want us to kind of wrap it up with this because this has been good, though, Steve. I like you. You get my blood boiling. See, I can talk to you. I'm like, well, Steve, listen. I hear you. I know you're trying to call me out. I'm not moved,
Listen,
right?
hold on a second. Wait a second. Listen, I'm not calling you out. Make no mistake about it. What I'm challenging you to do
Mhm.
is to also help me, because sometimes we say things, and because people don't understand exactly what, and I think this is a big problem. You know, you talk about communication.
Mhm.
One of the problems and one of the big divides that we have right now is that we hear one thing and we hear something being said, and because the perspective about what is being said, you know, I've been trying to explain this in great detail to a lot of my white friends, right?
Mhm.
Because they
Right.
automatically see hashtag Black Lives Matter, or they hear Black Lives Matter, and the quick response is all lives matter. And again, I'm trying to give them the perspective that, listen, when you have a higher perspective, what you understand when you see that is Black lives doesn't matter, or Black lives matters doesn't mean other lives don't matter. It
Mhm.
just means, hey, right now we need to focus on the fact that this is excuse me, that this is happening and we matter.
Right.
You know, I see Black Lives Matter as a cry for help, not a condemnation against white people.
Right.
And so we have to, you know, we have got to explain these
Mhm.
perspectives. So the reason I called you out on the white privilege thing is because
Mhm.
not because I'm calling you out or challenging you in a negative way or
Mhm.
saying that what you're saying is not right.
Mhm.
Reason I called you out is because, again, we're having these conversations to educate people, to get people to think at a higher level. And when you say white privilege, what I'm telling you as a white man is that I know a lot, because I see the post on Facebook.
Mhm.
I don't get offended when I hear white privilege. I know
Mhm.
exactly what the term white privilege is referencing, and I get it. I
Mhm.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree with it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Right.
get it.
And
I get it.
so we have to, we've got to, you know, and I know that you say, you know, you said a minute ago, I'm gonna challenge you on this as well. Okay.
Mhm.
Is that we shouldn't have to keep explaining everything to white people. Okay. Right. And I know you're tired of explaining it to us.
And
I
I'm
know
not even
you're,
talking about me.
no, I know. We're talking about the big picture, right?
Right.
Because we're thinking of a higher perspective.
Right.
And you're right. That is not a responsibility that you should have to bear. Okay. We are all, you know, and I'm speaking generalized here. Okay.
Mhm.
We are all smart enough to figure this out. And again, we are all smart enough to see each other's perspectives and to come together and to challenge each other's perspectives, to challenge each other's limiting beliefs, to challenge the wrong things that we have been taught, the things that we have seen, and the perceptions of things as we have gone through our lives here
Mhm.
to create the perspectives that we have. So my biggest message is that I'm going to say love again. Okay. And again,
Absolutely.
love is an action,
Right.
right? And in order for us to truly love each other, one, we've got to listen to each other.
Absolutely.
We have got to understand each other. And if that means that we have to bear the responsibility of continuing to explain ourselves or what we mean in a certain context, then we have to bear that responsibility. If we want to create true change, we have got to listen, we've got to understand, we've got to love each other, and we've all got to start thinking from a higher perspective.
Okay. So
All right.
I'm going to say this as it relates to communication.
Okay.
I don't think that it is that we have to, I don't think it's necessarily about the challenging each other's perspective. I think it's, and I know it seems like terminology, right? But when you study communication, there's some words that trigger things, right?
Right. Challenge. Right. I got you. Bad word. Bad word.
What? No, not even a bad word. Just another potential way of saying it is just another perspective. Let me just give you another perspective.
You're right. You're exactly right.
I've had to do is when I talk to people, I say, well, you know, let me just give you another perspective. This isn't the only perspective. I'm not saying it's the right perspective, but it's another perspective. And so I always appreciate when people give me another perspective to look for, because I pride myself on looking from multiple perspectives, right? I don't always get it right. I don't always hit the mark, but I'm very aware. I'm very self-aware. So when I say stuff, I meant what I said. It wasn't that I didn't think about it. It was that I said it very deliberately because there was an outcome that I was desiring to get, right? And these conversations are crucial. They are crucial because they allow us to lay it all out there, to lay it down, and to really put it on the line and let people see it. Because although I don't agree with everything you said, you know, I don't agree with everything. I agree with the majority of what you said, right? Like, and we have that in common. And so when we can find that common ground, we don't have to agree on how everything happens. Because see, my contention is it's time for white people to start, the white people that get it, to start educating the other white people, which is what you're doing, right? And that's the key. And it's time for everyone to listen and hear. And if you have a Black friend and your Black friend, you go to your Black friend and you're having a conversation about this, then I need you to hear them, right? And not just gloss over what they said and dismiss it, right? So that's a part of that communication process, being able to empathize with one another. You may not have had the same experiences, but all of us can relate to emotion. Every single human being has some emotion. There's a time when you experienced it. And the emotion that I'm feeling right now, Steve Hopper, is absolutely overwhelming love for you. My brother, thank you for trusting me enough to put yourself on the line.
I love you too. And I want to say this. As these conversations have been happening and taking place, I see a major glimmer of hope for us, for all of us. You know, I see that things are headed in a direction that can be extremely positive and life-changing for this country. And I see that glimmer of hope. And, you know, again, you know, everybody just stay sharp in your mind. Like, stay sharp in your mind. Don't let a lot of the stuff that you see out there change you from a mindset of moving forward. Absolutely. Like, and change, you know, because I see it. I see the possibility is there. It's huge. It's going to take more people stepping up to the plate, obviously, and making things happen and things changing. But, you know, just keep your mind strong as we go through this and as we progress forward and we move in the next direction. You know, we talk about, you know, I'm going to say one last thing. I know we're at an hour and 8 minutes.
Come on, you good. Go ahead.
Okay. Say it. You know, I was watching Pastor Steve Furtick, and he was, I believe it was John Gray is the name of the other pastor.
Yeah.
So two black and white pastors, and they got together and they were talking and having a conversation. And Steve, the white pastor, he said, for us as white people, guilt, walking around with a feeling of guilt for slavery and the way our Black brothers and sisters have been treated for, hundreds of years. Feeling that guilt is not enough. Saying I'm sorry is not enough, right? It's repentance. Repentance is what's required. And what he says, and some people, will associate I'm sorry with repentance. And the reality is that in the Old Testament, repentance meant new direction.
Absolutely.
And in the New Testament, it means new mind. And so as we talk about a country that needs to repent, we need both new direction and new mindset. And that's from all of us, white, Black. We need new direction, new mindset. Repentance is what we need. And so anyways, I just want to, I want to get that in there because we've had this, we've had this big, long conversation, y'all. It's allergies. It ain't COVID. I promise I'm good. Anyway.
I'm putting my mask on.
Put it on, girl. Put it on. You know that mask ain't going to save you from no COVID anyways. Listen, I love you too. I love you too. And I thank you so much for thinking enough of me to get me on here with you. And I love everybody else that's watching this too.
Yeah.
Let's
change the world, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So it's so funny that you were talking about the word repentance, because that's exactly what I said, right? I was watching this live and I said, listen, you're talking about we need love. We need repentance. Repentance can lead to genuine, true love, right? And I'm excited. Now, let me tell you why I have hope. Let me tell you something. There is a group of young white kids out there that are standing up to their parents and they're saying, this stuff is not right.
Yeah.
It is not right. And they're challenging their parents. Now, this is the one time that, I'm looking at the white kids challenging their parents, because I know when I was growing up and my white parents would be like, I'm not doing, I was like, I wouldn't have no teeth, right? But they're challenging their parents, and they're challenging their parents on their beliefs, and they're challenging them to look at it from a different perspective. And so I have hope. And let me tell you where my hope lies today. My hope lies in my brand new grandbaby boy. I got a brand new grandbaby. And I'm telling you, his mom has given me a lot of hope, because as a Black mother with Black sons who worry about protecting them, getting ready to have a biracial, read Black, because there'll be people who will look at him and see Black regardless, grandson, I was concerned. And his mom has really done a good job of sharing knowledge and information and educating. But let me tell you what my son did. My son said, Ma, I know you're the one that you're going to do it on social media. You're going to try to change the world. He said, listen, this is my assignment. My assignment is to change my home. If I can change
start there.
I can change my home. If I can impact my wife, and my wife can impact her family, and then we can impact the community, right? That's where change begins. And so I want to challenge everyone to start with you. Start with you. And y'all, his name is Joseph Malachi Gordon.
Yeah, nice.
8 pounds, 10 ounces.
Dr. V, I want to tell you too, he is cute. Now, a lot of times you'll say a baby's cute and you're like, oh Lord, but listen, he is cute. Yes. He is real cute. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And that is our hope, you guys. We've got to get this together, because we have generations coming behind us that need us to get it together. We can't afford not to do it. And if we don't do it for us, let's do it for the generations that are coming behind us. Steve, tell the people how they can follow you, how they can get in touch with you.
Well, just connect with me on social media at Steve Hopper Speaks, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I love to connect with everybody. And, I'm 100% with you, Dr. V. It starts at home. We've all got to start at home and manifest it out of that. And so I just, thank you again. I love all you guys. And thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. You guys, listen, if this is our first time encountering Dr. V, I know I'm too much for some people, and it's okay. I'm good with it. Like, I'm very comfortable with who I am. But let me tell you this, like, I have a true heart. My heart is my heart. I say what I mean what I say, and I'm going to be very real and authentic, even if I don't look good to other people or whatever. Like, I've got to be honest with myself about who I am and where I am. And it is in our honesty with ourselves about who we are, where we are, and our challenges that we're able to move forward. If you haven't seen the broadcast from yesterday, please go back and look at it. I'm on with Pastor David G. Scott, and we talk practical things the church can do. What can the white church do, right? What can the white church do? I'm white. My church is white. We want to do something. What can we do? We have some very real, transparent conversations. And then go back a little further. Check out some of my videos where I begin to share with you my personal experiences and my heart. I never want you to look at anyone and hear one conversation and think you know them. You don't, right? So make sure that, listen, Steve, y'all, first of all, I'm not vouching for nobody I'm not vouching, right? I vouch for him. I vouch for his heart. He has a heart for people. And that's what I love about him, is that he and I are very similar. And that's why we get fiery, right? Because we too much alike. We so much alike. Like, I love it. So you guys, make sure you go follow him, stay abreast of what he's doing. And if you get the opportunity to attend a Steve Harper event, make sure that you do so, because I promise you, you will be blessed by it. You all, again, Steve, thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too.
Listen, you guys, remember this. I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. I love you to life, and life more abundant. Be blessed. Mwah.